It's that time again. It's the podcast that takes your personal and professional life to a whole new level. Whether you're selling a product, selling a service, or selling yourself, one thing is for sure. You're always selling for life. All right, and welcome to another installment of the Selling for Life podcast, sponsored by Conequip Parts, a world of parts with a personal touch. This podcast is about more than just selling stuff. It's about more than just selling yourself. We think if you stick around, you'll get a lot out of it. I'm Steve, and I'm joined by business owner, philanthropist, long-distance runner, and loving father and husband, Mr. Al Alexander. How you doing, Al?
I'm doing great, thanks. Long distance run. I haven't ran long distance since I was 28 years old.
That's what I meant. It's been a long time since you did any long distance running. That's what I meant.
Thank you for reminding me.
So how have you been? You had quite a hectic day yesterday. You weren't in the office, but you're back. A little update on your life since we last spoke.
Wow, thanks for asking. Well, things are going well. We're working at home on making sure our children are involved in some cool outside activities.
Okay.
You know, you ever have like a 10-year-old who likes to play on the tablet all day?
Yes.
Doesn't understand the concept of push-ups or sit-ups?
Sure.
And like, why would you do them
Right.
more than once? Well, that's what I'm working with.
Okay. Trying to get your kids to work out and exercise.
Yeah.
And why do you want them to work out and exercise?
I work out.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing is to inspire my 11-year-old, I got him on my back and I started doing push-ups with him.
Ooh, okay.
He was very impressed.
Yes. Okay.
Well, how can you do that? You know, well, you got to lift weights, you got to move, you got to make your body strong.
Yeah.
That's what we're working with.
Okay.
I love it. I love it. I can give that kind of love of that for, whatever to him.
Gotcha.
Transfer that over to him.
Okay. So that's why you do that with your kids?
Yeah.
Well, how about that? Well, that brings us to our topic of the day, and the topic of the day is the why. Why? Why do we do what we do? To make money, to provide for our family, to influence people, to look good. What is your why? For successful business entrepreneurs, sales professionals in other fields, trade workers, they do what they do because hopefully they want to make a difference in the lives of others and obviously provide for their family, etc. That's what we're going to be talking about today.
Well, unfortunately, sometimes, we start doing something and down the road we find to ourselves, pondering why the heck we started doing what we're doing in the first place.
Right.
So this episode, we're going to investigate the why question. What is your why?
Right. You can get bogged down with, doing things in life and just not know where you're going. And so we are honored to have Mr. Jason Caras is our guest today. Jason is co-chairman and co-founder of IT Authorities, which is among the top 100 fastest growing managed service providers in the world. Jason is also a strategic coach, public speaker, and most importantly, loving father. Jason, hello.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me.
It's awesome having you, my friend. Before I get started, you are in Tampa, Florida. So how's the weather down there today?
It's actually pretty cold. It was 46 degrees this morning.
46 degrees. I'd be out at the beach today. It's about 10 degrees here. Yeah. You're from Boston. You're from Boston originally, so you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah.
That's why I live in Florida. Yes.
That's awesome.
So you're saying you're smarter than us?
Yes, absolutely. That's why we have him on the show.
We're so appreciative of you being on the show.
Yeah, really. I have known Jason for more than 20 years now. One thing I know and appreciate about Jason is he is always moving forward. He's always thinking. He's always trying to better his life, to provide for his family, and he has a true desire to enrich the lives of people around him. Thing I can say about Jason is just he's a very highly motivated person.
I also heard that he was one of the stars of a reality TV show years ago called Surreal.
We'll edit that out, Jason.
It was great. He was the mastermind behind it all, the director, the producer, the editor.
Yeah. So
It was great.
that's a story for another day.
Well, first, Jason, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the history of IT authorities?
Sure. So we started in 2006. My business partner and I actually bought a company in 2002, and we successfully ran it into the ground by 2005. We lost everything we owned, and we learned a lot of big lessons about how to run a business. For me, it was a recurring theme, which is just focus on one thing and try to be the best in the world at it, and typically you'll be better at it than the folks that are trying to do 8 different things. So we did run it into the ground, and we were penniless and broke, and when we started this company, we made a commitment that we would not waver, and we would not allow what we call the focus vampires to take us away from doing one thing and doing it really, really well. So in 2006, we started it. We had over $1 million in debt that we had paid off almost, and we financed the rest, and we started the company, and we did really well. It's been an amazing ride. I think we're 13 years now in it, 12, 13 years.
Wow, thank God for that. That's really neat that you described it as successfully running it into the ground. You were still successful.
I wouldn't take anything back, right? Because such great lessons learned from that process. It hurt and it was tough, and it's, to go without food and, spending money is a tough thing. It's really tough, especially as an adult.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've been through it myself, and man, I love the lessons. It's just amazing. So, real quick question: you say the demise was because you got off focus, or because you weren't able to manage outside that focus?
No, it was because we spread ourselves too thin. We took a perfectly running IT services company and turned it into a company that did that as well as websites and software development and cabling and phone systems and telecommunication services. All of these are businesses in and of themselves that require laser focus to be successful. Now, if you're the size of a GE, you have the ability to throw money and people and resources at and give you the ability to diversify. But when you're small, it's kind of a rock in the hard place, right? You can't afford to turn away business that's not in your focus. But when you do turn to business that's not in your focus, you're not doing process improvement. Your employees aren't getting better at what they were doing. Now they're learning more things, and they're becoming scattered. They may have to have several interfaces to look up information, et cetera. It adds to the complexity.
Yeah. I tell you, you and I are kindred spirits. I'm feeling butterflies in my tummy right now.
Yeah, you guys are a lot alike. So eventually, maybe even before, even with the company that didn't work out back in 2002, there was a why, I assume, right? There's always been a why for all of us. My question to you now is, did your why change from 2002 to 2006?
No. In fact, it's never changed since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Literally since I started my first business when I was 15 years old. I was painting houses. I had a business, Jay's Painting. By the time I was in high school, I had 2 crews working most of the time while I was in the actual class in high school. The why then is the same as the why now. And, I was fortunate enough to be enlightened to what it's like to live a life of abundance. Mm-hmm. I grew up in a, upper middle class home. I had a girlfriend at the time whose dad was very, very successful. And I loved them in what they had, and they had this great sense of family, but they would rent these beautiful houses on the beach, and they had the ability to buy the kids new cars, and it was very materialistic then. But what I really grew to understand was it was the ability to live in an abundant life, not necessarily just to have the money, but what you can do with the money. I just wanted to be a better person, and I was driven by, and I was very passionate and very driven to be the very best version of myself, and that extended into my companies. I wanted my folks to become all that they could possibly become. My why has always been to be the most amazing man I can be, and that's a father, that's a CEO, that's a friend, that's a husband, it's all of those things. I have a concept I live by, and it's that I discovered called the 212-degree principle. Have you heard about this?
No.
It's boiling water. That's where points of water boils, right?
It is, and it's a great, simple way to just think about something where 211 water's hot and 212 water boils, just one extra degree. And literally, most things in life, greatness comes from that extra degree that you muster up when everybody else is not. And that can be extended in your relationship, that can be into your business, that can be with working out. I usually give an example of working out. If you're doing push-ups and you start to burn and you stop and rest and let the burn go, you just negated the whole process, because that burn is when the pain comes. And through pain, you have growth. We will do more to avoid pain than we will do to gain pleasure. And the reason why the have and the have-nots are separated is literally comes down to, are they doing 10,000% more than you? No. Typically, just a little bit, just that little extra degree. So for me, that's even my license plate, B212. Everything is 212 for me because I want to be better every day.
Is that kind of like P90X?
That was
I can't
awesome.
do P90X. My knees are shot.
Hey, listen, in our conversation getting ready for this interview, you mentioned something about having a conversation with your 13-year-old self. Can you explain that a little bit more?
I find that as a profound process because, first of all, a lot of people just don't quiet their mind. If they're not listening to everything around them, they're listening to something in their ears, and they don't just literally sit in silence. I encourage people to sit in silence for an extended period of time, more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes or more, and just shut your eyes, do some deep breathing, and then just literally have a conversation with your 13-year-old self. That conversation might be a tough one. It might be a really exciting one. It really depends on who you are and where you are, where you've come from. But that usually eliminates some things, like, for instance, would your 13-year-old self be proud? Would your 13-year-old self say, you have not lived up to what you said you were going to do in your life or the way you were going to be?
Right.
And that's a tough conversation.
I actually added into a conversation last month, and it was the concept of like what's really important when you're on your deathbed or you're facing that that mortality of someone you love, and the nitpick of things. And it's kind of the concept of self-awareness. And I love that, thinking about when you're 13, what would you tell your 13-year self? That's a great idea.
And the reason why you're 13, you're 10, whatever, right? It doesn't matter. But then by that time, most likely you haven't had your dreams beaten out of you by this thing called life, right? So that's why you go back in time, because then you were like, anything was possible. I want to be an astronaut. I want to do this. I want to do that. And it's a beautiful innocence that needs to be resurrected, I think.
And those are the most impressionable years. I always hear from about 9 to 13 is when you really form as a person. So that might be part of why you go back to that particular time.
Yeah, I've heard it said that one of the keys to success is sometimes knowing, or actually not knowing. We say it here is that I'm too stupid to know that I couldn't do that. Yeah. Me and my business partner Ben, we always kind of, whenever we're talking to a group or new employees, we do like a class to onboard them. We say that and remind them that's one of our skill sets, is being too dumb to know that we couldn't accomplish this. So
that's so great. I love it. Because you know why? Because what you're talking about is most people are littered with self-limiting beliefs.
Absolutely.
The minute they think of something, they think, oh, well, you can't, that's impossible, that's not reasonable, et cetera, et cetera.
And I love the concept that you're talking in that sense, and that makes me think that's the same page. With that question about the why and, revealing your true motivation, for us, we were kind of like figuring this out over the last 3 years. We heard a TED Talk about this, and I was like, man, what we did in the beginning, we didn't even know that we did it. We came to a point when we were starting the business, and we sat for almost 2 weeks trying to figure out what we know now is our why. It was kind of like our motto. And, I heard in a book years ago, hey, you got to figure out your motto, or you got to figure out like your call to action, or, the reasons, right? In this TED Talk, we figured out, okay, they call it the why, right? So we kind of were driven forward by this why, which is a really best practice of anything you do in life. And coming up with it was the reason why we wake up every day, to influence families that are, in our employ, to influence our children, our wives, to influence our community, our folks at church, or whatever we're involved in a positive way, and our customers. They call us, or they call upon us for this service because they're looking for help. Why? Well, they have to get up, provide for their family, and continue that process, and hopefully of influence of theirs. And I think that you're on the same page in that sense, it sounds like.
Well, Earl Nightingale actually spoke about it in his series called The Strangest Secret. And he talked about how they asked 100 men why they wake up in the morning. 99 of them, if you will, I forgot the number, but it was majority, was to go to work, to make money. And if the why is just that, that's not enough to pull. It's like if someone says, I want to buy a house, and you say, why? Well, because I want to own a house.
Right.
No, it's because I want to entertain. I want my kids to run freely in the backyard.
Yeah.
I want a sense of family. That why will pull and drive.
Man, that's awesome, Jason.
love it.
Yep. Thank you so much for joining us, Jason. Great talking to you again. And where can our listeners go to receive public speaking or more strategic coaching instructions from you?
I appreciate that. So I just launched my strategic coaching and public speaking site at jasoncaras.com, JASONCARAS.com.
Okay.
And we also have a show called Gratitude TV, and that's with a B, Gratitude. And it's it's on YouTube, and the website for that is gratitude.org. Okay. And there we have tracks of information around gratitude first and foremost, but we cover entrepreneurship, relationships, finance, personal and professional development, health and fitness. So there's lots of videos and information in both those places.
Sweet. Will there be any Surreal World clips on there too?
I think there should be a Surreal World too, and I happen to know the producer, editor, director.
Can I be a cast member?
Oh my gosh!
It was so much fun.
If we could get the old gang together and do a reunion, that would be insane.
That'd be great.
We'll talk about that in the future. So we really look forward to having you on the show again, Jason. I hope you'd be willing to do that. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd love to. Thank you for thinking of me.
Been a pleasure. So again, this was Jason Caras down in Tampa, Florida. IT authorities. Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
All right.
Thank
take
you,
care.
Jason.
Great having Jason join us for that conversation. That brings us now to our next segment, and it is Al's inspirational message.
Well, when you want to be inspired, call Jason.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm pumped up.
What about that why? What do you think about that why? What are your thoughts on that after this episode?
Yeah, even talking about the why, and his why is very similar to mine, and which is really cool. I love the concept of that 212.
Yes.
That B212, that was mind blowing.
And I knew what he was talking about too, believe it or not.
You followed that one?
I did. I knew 212 right away.
Amazing.
I didn't know where he was going with it, but
I'm not he has all the inspiration today. I cannot I cannot even add to it. Hey, good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this? Inspirational stuff?
Yeah.
Learn from those who've been put in your path.
yes, absolutely.
There you go.
Okay, remember, you can email us at contact@sellingforlife.com. And you can check out our website at sellingforlife.com. We're going to have links there to Jason's page if you want to check that out. And that brings us to the end of episode 25, the silver episode.
Whoop, whoop.
Can you believe it?
That's amazing.
25 in the book. So remember, whether you're selling gluten-free fruit or you're trying to convince yourself it's time to let go of that thing that has become such a burden in your life because the answer to your why just doesn't measure up, one thing is for sure, you are always selling for life.
Fruit is gluten-free already.